Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Double Defense. Here we are again, Christine.
Oh yeah, it's Monday already.
It's Monday. It's post St. Patrick's Day. I can tell
Yeah.
you the odds on bovadasportsbook.com that we would be tired today were
Do
really
we have
good.
our own odds? We should have our own odds on that
We should
site.
100% have our own odds on this site. And I can tell you, I would have bet on the fact that we would have been tired today. We had a big week. The Rangers had a big weekend. We were doing a lot of double defense and watching the Rangers win a couple of really great games. So I feel like we should be flying high today, and we are.
It's been a very adventurous week, between the first two games, the loss, and then heading into the weekend. The conversation was great too. We lost. We're looking for this. We had 5 games in 7 days. We have Rempe, and we're like, yeah, we got this guy, and then all of a sudden it's like, no, we don't have him anymore. he goes and just with his long gangly arms, hits someone in the head, and he's out 4 games, which. Yeah, I think we were talking about it. My opinion is it sent a very clear message to the team and to him to get his kind of act together a little bit, and that he's got basically. I think the message was, "We're watching you," kind of a thing.
Which
We'll
which
have
I don't think that is undeserved. So we are recording this the afternoon of Monday, March 18th. The Rangers are actually not playing today, but they do play tomorrow against the Winnipeg Jets, which will be a lot of fun. And Rempe should be back in the lineup tomorrow because he served his sentence for his rough hit against Segan.
his 20-minute jail time, which is
yes.
Too.
And the Rangers had a crazy week. So
I know. Thank you, Rangers, for the break. You listened to us. You gave it to us for today, even though the schedule was designed a year ago, but we definitely need it today.
Yeah, we did. And I have to say, watching the game on Saturday, which was against the Penguins, really solid victory, 7-4 win. I feel like the Rangers dominated that game entirely. I mean, I don't think anybody was expecting anything
after
else.
The first 3 minutes. Yeah, so we were down at Wall Street Pizza. Thank you to Wall Street Pizza, who just celebrated an anniversary for their place. They, it's Mark and his dad, Randy. We love them, and we'll be down there many, many more times in the future, watching games down there. It's by the beach. It's outdoorsy, and it's got great pizza.
And I'm gonna add, for any New York Rangers fans in Southern California, as we are, who want a place where you can feel like you're walking into home, with really good New York style pizza. These guys were great, and it really is truly a New York Rangers bar and vibe in there. That was very cool. Cool.
And if you're not in LA, tell your LA friends, to come over. We need those gathering. We had a great group there. It was great. I was a little late due to traffic because it is California and it was a Saturday. And I listened to the first goal and I was like, what? And then all of a sudden, and then we scored again. So I arrived and parked and was there. So, and then from that point on, I was kind of surprised that it was even as high as it was on the Penguins side. But we're gonna see that. That's a good example of, I think, the games we saw almost an identical game against the Islanders. We're gonna see that.
Yeah. So that was on Saturday. On Sunday, Christine and I dragged ourselves awake and off the couch to watch the Rangers take on the Islanders. The Rangers did win 5-2. That was another dominating performance. But I feel like, we're at the point in the season where a lot of teams that are trying to scramble for that last wild card spot are going to play some desperate hockey. And I felt like the Islanders were playing some very desperate hockey, but the Rangers just outplayed them the whole time.
Yeah, it was funny. I think, what do we see? I think odds on Bravada were, I don't know. I think at one point we were sure, in for the win by a lot on these games. So I know that they're tightening up, and I think we're getting better odds now on Bravada because we're being a little bit more consistent this week. But we're going to start playing some of the harder teams too. We got Boston coming up, right?
And we're playing. So tomorrow we're taking on the Winnipeg Jets, who are in first place in the Central Division, which will be a good game. Followed by the Bruins, followed by the Panthers. So
those are the best games.
I think the Rangers had kind of a chill they kind of had a chill February, which allowed them to regroup following the All-Star game, which is something that we needed. But I think these are going to be some very testing games. I mean, it's not even a question if we're going to make the playoffs. I think it's a question of just where we're going to wind up in the season, because
it's going to go back. It's going to go back to that question we had before. It's like, who would you play?
Yeah. So I want to go back to the Islander game for a second, because if there is one thing that would be a guaranteed win on Bovada, it's that Lindgren is going to get hurt. And we saw it happen in this game against the Islanders. It looked like Lindgren's leg or his knee twisted under him during a collision. He obviously was, he's down on the ice. He was obviously in pain. Lindgren's been a beast for this team. And as Christine has been saying, the worse he's hurt, the better he seems to play.
That's true.
But that looked particularly bad. So, I don't know if you've heard any updates, Christine, on
well, I saw posts before the news came out. So again, one of the things I'm glad we kind of learned when we were talking with Tom a few weeks ago is that because a lot of these booking sites like Bravada and other ones use these odds, like they need to know the information, so it's not going to be held for too long. So everyone was waiting with bated breath today. The news did come out that he's only going to be out for a few weeks, but I did see an earlier post with somebody who said that they actually saw him walking out with Trocheck, and that was a really good sign. So
like physically walking out of the
it was a very brief statement on Threads, and so when I saw that, I was hopeful. I don't know. I mean, I kind of said it when we were watching him. I felt like he wasn't, it didn't look as bad as the other ones. That's the third kind of hit where we've seen with other players.
You didn't think it looked as bad? I thought, I don't know. They showed that slow motion replay and it looked like his whole
but this
knee,
is like the third. We've seen this exact injury. Like this is like, I think it's the third one we've seen in the last month or so in games where, on other teams where these guys have been out, they're out for the season. He at least got up real quick and was, I don't know. I mean, I just felt like it didn't look as bad. It still doesn't mean it doesn't hurt him. And then to see the post this morning where someone saw him walking with Trocheck was a good sign. And then that was followed by this uplifting kind of thing. He's just, he's going to be out. And it makes me wonder, we were talking on a separate note about conspiracy theory. We still don't know why Trouba's out, right? I mean, I missed it. I didn't see it, to be honest. But I was kind of thinking about it today. I'm like, do you think he got hurt doing a painting? Like, he could do that.
Can you imagine? Yes. So for those of you who don't follow Trouba's art career, apparently, so he's very into art. Cool. That's awesome. Be into what you're into. But he makes this art by like dousing himself in paint and then running full speed at a wall, like throwing himself on it. So if that's how he got hurt, I would be very upset.
Maybe he just tripped and slipped on the paint. I can see something crazy. It happened in practice. No, it happened in practice. So that's still a mystery. But
I do want to give a quick shout out because somebody posted this on Twitter and I was just dying laughing. So at Madam Fox 23 tweeted on Sunday night, Ryan Lindgren is currently sitting in a hospital bed somewhere asking them to saw his leg off so he can get back to work.
Exactly. I know the kids are like, let's just get that bionic leg for the playoffs. Let's just get him all bionic.
It's
true. Whenever he gets injured, he's just a raging beast when he comes out. So bring it on. Totally. I'm ready.
As the seasons progress, it's like he'll have a black eye, he'll have stitches in his face, his nose will be broken. The picture, I was just pulling up a picture of him to do our little like YouTube thumbnail, and he's just like a total mess. And it's amazing. It almost like it motivates him more. So I wonder if the odds on Bovada have changed now that he's like, now that he's fired up, as long as he's back in the lineup. Although I think that post said that he was it would be like 2 to 3 weeks or something, and he would be back then.
Yeah, it's similar to Trouba. Trouba's been out a week now, and we'll see. So I think it's fine. The rest of the games are going to go off regardless. Right now, we have the best save percent, like the best percentage in the league. We're absolutely dead tied, even with all stats, with Florida Panthers. Boston's ahead of us because they have more games, and And of course, we were talking about this too, the most ties, overwin times, ties in the league, which is crazy how we were talking about that. And I was go ahead.
Well, so let me ask you then. So with the Rangers week up ahead, facing the Bruins on Thursday and the Panthers on Saturday, are you seeing this as a little like playoff preview?
Well, look, we're going to play hard against Boston all the time, right? I think that there's just going to be a team that we're going to have to play. They get a little dirty. I just see dirty with these guys. I feel the game against the Canes was it. So I think these will be competitive. I expect them to be close. And it'll be interesting with Rempe in the lineup, because that's part of the thing. It's like I wanted to get your thought on like what you think is going to happen in these next 3 games with Rempe. Do you think he's going to come out being very cautious? My statement was just put him in front of the net. Put him in front of the net, because when he was there and they scored, him and Kako, it worked. No one can see anything. So it'll be a curious thing. I also feel that these are 2 teams that will do what New Jersey did, is try to tempt him to do things.
Exactly.
To draw the penalty and to get him distracted, because they feel he's an easy target. So that's the thing to watch. I think we were talking yesterday about, like, I'm interested now. Like, it's funny, I watch our team, but I'm in the focus of watching how the other teams are playing now too, and seeing where they're, you could see where the Islanders were slacking in their not connecting with their plays and their speed, and I don't know, you could see why they're in the spot they're in. So now we're going to play these top 3. We're in the same league.
Yeah, and then I don't want to tell you who they're playing right after that. So we have the Jets, who are in first in the Central, the Bruins, the Panthers, and then the Flyers next Tuesday. So these are the next 4 games are going to be exhausting. No doubt about it. There's no.
Well, look, I think Rempe's going to send a good message against Boston and the Panthers. The Flyers. I think Tortorella is going to have someone try to take him out. So let's watch for that and keep an eye on that and see. So these are going to be fun games.
I'll tell you, speaking of like desperate hockey, like the Flyers they're currently 3rd in the Metropolitan. It's such a tight race between 3rd and wild card. They have 76 points. Tampa Bay actually has 78 points for the first wild card spot, but they have another game on Philadelphia, and then the Red Wings at 74 points, and then the Capitals at 73, and the Islanders at 73. So these teams are going to start
really quickly over the weekend with some of these. Literally the scores it changed position. They're so close there with those spots. It'll be fun to watch, and we're getting into position. As we get closer, it's going to be interesting, because we'll start talking more about the focus of, do we want to end up in first place? And as we've talked in earlier episodes, like, how much do we think superstition plays in that? I think Boston's learned they don't want to be first. So, and then the Panthers are like, well, we don't give a shit about superstition. And then they lost.
And then they lost. Exactly. I wonder, I do actually wonder, so if the odds on Bovada would change depending on whether or not that team touches the President's Trophy. Like, do superstitions ever come in? Because statistically, I mean, if you look at the statistics, those are not great odds if you've touched it and then you go on into the playoffs. Yeah. So
look, it's the players that do that. It's an interesting thing. We'll definitely put this on a question to ask some hockey players and how they're playing, because when you're superstitious like that and you're playing as a team, you can't play to lose. You always have to play to win. But how are you going to do that? Maybe you just let the other team win a little bit more. I just don't know. So it's something good to kind of watch and focus on and see how they're playing in these. I mean, look, we're coming down last few weeks. We're now these teams are within 15. We just saw the Ducks were now the 3rd team now to go and be eliminated from playoffs. The Ducks have now a 6-year streak in not making the playoffs. This is our local team. They are local to me. They are 10 minutes away from me. And not looking good. I don't see anyone get fired today.
The good thing about the Ducks not winning is it keeps the ticket prices really low.
That's when you see us at the glass. That's a game to watch for Double Defense because we're in the glass being like, being geeky and having fun.
That's always a benefit. The more they win, the more expensive those tickets become.
Exactly.
So the 3 teams that have been eliminated, as you said, the Ducks, the Blackhawks, and the Sharks have all been eliminated. Outside of that, it doesn't look like anyone in the West technically has been mathematically eliminated at this point. But I guess it's getting close for the Columbus Blue Jackets.
It's going to get closer now because, look, we're at what, 94 points, 95 with the top 3. We got a tight race at the top 2 for these top 3 places. And we're playing each other. So someone's going to start hitting that 100-point mark, and we're getting closer to kind of now we're going to start seeing the next week and a half, I think, people start inking their playoff spot too, which is good. We're getting into that home stretch. This is the part where I love the most, as I was saying from the beginning of the year. So I like to see if predictions are right and where people are thinking on the games and how they're going to go. I think this week is going to be close. I think the Jets, again, we don't really play them too much. So they're going to, hopefully they come out to play to prepare themselves for Boston and for the Panthers. I think Boston's going to be a little rough and dirty, and we got to watch them. And if we can get them to, because we're playing up in Boston, right? So then we're in their house,
and it'll be interesting. So Boston this year, and the Islanders have both have 15 points in overtime, which is wild. Crazy? 15 points.
I think that's insane. So we were talking about that yesterday too. There's actually 3 other teams with an extraordinary amount of overtime wins. And I just was looking at this article today where I guess every year the GMs meet together to talk about trends and things in the league. And they were talking that the focus this time was on overtime and possibly changing the format. I think the discussion was like, look, when they change it to 3-on-3, they spend a lot of time setting things up as opposed to attacking and shooting, and it's true. So, is it an efficient way to do overtime? And they're saying that right now we're looking at, what was I saying? The NHL is on track to have 70% of extra time games end in overtime this season, which would be a record. So if we continue the way we're going for the remaining weeks, that's an overtime NHL record. That's crazy. And we were kind of talking about that too, where we feel like they kind of manipulate these games.
It becomes obvious that a lot of teams play for overtime. Like they play to get the point.
They get that extra point.
And they don't want to lose. They don't want to, possibly do anything that would jeopardize their chance to take away that point. And, if you look at Boston, 15 points, the Islanders too, 15 points is a lot.
Yeah.
That adds
Even
up.
The lower teams have some crazy amount of overtime games. It looks like, so a group of general managers meet and they make recommendations. They're looking to provide a report in a bigger sense this week. And in the article, it looked like they weren't going to recommend any changes, but it's going to be on people's radars to kind of keep an eye on and see how things go for that.
So it's interesting to think about, because when you do think about overtime, and I totally get, part of the reason, the scheduling of it, they want to keep games, tight and exciting. However, isn't it strange that in the NHL, once the playoffs start, 3-on-3 doesn't really exist. Overtime shootouts don't exist. It's almost like a completely different game. So it's strange to me that you're judged on something that doesn't even happen during the playoffs. So I wonder if there's a way to sort of compromise it. And I was having this conversation with a couple of friends over the weekend. Could you potentially do like another period and then go into a shootout? Like there's all kinds of ways to structure this. What do you think, Christine? What would you do?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, right now it is the way it is. I hate shootouts. I also don't like that they end in ties. So I don't know. The only way is kind of what we're talking about was what the PHL is doing, the PWHL, sorry, is that they if you win straight out, you get 3 points. And then there's that incentive. So at least what they're doing with their rules is providing incentive for things. Everything they've done has an incentive to, win the game. And if not, you're going to get the point and do that. And if you've got someone in the penalty box, you're going to work harder to jailbreak them, even into their, their draft format and their playoff format. So everything is there to incentivize the players and the teams to work a little harder. And if there could be something like if they lost a point, that'd be better.
I mean, there's something to that. That's super interesting.
That would be better, maybe like if it got to the shootout, then the loser loses a point, because if they're making me stress out, they need to stress out too.
I don't know how sports betting odds on Bovada would be affected by that, but I imagine that a lot of the point structure does have to do with sports betting, because it is such a big thing. I remember one of the pushbacks on about the 3 points and using that structure in the regular NHL that one of the commentators during the PWHL game is talking about, is that with 3 points for a win, you could have a runaway season like very early on, and he said it would leave it less competitive as the season kind of got deeper in its run. Like you would have teams that would just run away with it.
I agree with that actually too, and because we have so many teams, it's a different format with 6 teams. In a league that you have with women, so that makes more sense for them. I mean, when you have 40, yes, we would see crazy numbers, and these runaway teams that we've seen.
I mean,
and ourselves, we would be
we'd have like 150 points.
Yeah. Exactly. But it's an interesting thought, and it will be interesting to follow that to see if there's any thought or recommendations. Again, it doesn't look like they're going to recommend any changes, but I think it's going to be interesting to follow, because we were kind of had this conversation about overtime games last year, and that there was more and more of them. And now it just seems like there's an insanely amount of overtime endings. And what I hate about that is when you're watching like Boston and Florida play, I'm like, oh, one's going to lose. And they, no matter what, they always go into overtime, so they both get points.
Yeah, I think it's a huge part of the reason that the East is so tight this year is there have been so many overtimes. When you look at like that overtime losses for all the teams and you add that up, it's super high. It's really high. And I think, I'm just glancing at the numbers overall, it looks higher in the East than it does in the West. And you have to imagine that there are coaches that are coaching for that strategy. Like, don't worry about, you just get the point. How many times have you heard that when we've been playing someone like, oh, just get the point, because there's a benefit.
Yeah. So that it's an interesting thing. It's an interesting piece of discussion. I also didn't know that GMs met in March, but now we know. This is what I'm learning and following the news. So, and as we kind of talk more of sports betting and Bravada too, it's like, that'll be a fun thing to kind of see how it changes betting theories, especially if like there's more input and a thought of changing it. So I don't know what change does to sporting odds and the thought of it. And so,
I mean, change is always hard, but hey, they brought in the shootout. They brought in the 3-on-3 overtime. They can take us away also. And, I wouldn't mind the take us away. The Rangers have been good on 3-on-3. They've had, a lot of success in overtime. I don't want to complain on that front, but it just seems weird to me that during the regular season, we play one version of the sport. And then during the playoffs, it's different. It's a different sport, but it's different rules.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, I think over time, we've also seen in the playoffs, these games go into 3 or 4 or 5 periods, which is crazy too.
Amazing. It's great to watch.
I think
no one can go home.
I think it was against the Penguins a couple of years ago where it was so long. I forget who was the second goalie like for the Penguins, but he just walked out. He's like, I'm done in like the 5th overtime. And then that's when they brought in Domingue. I think he was like the 3rd goalie then. And he rocked it. So that was crazy because it was such a long thing. They had to go through the goalies. And And that's a concern too. When we're going to start playing these longer games, we've got 2 goalies, we've got 2 amazing goalies. We actually have 3. Yeah. And having those, because we've also seen injuries to goalies this year. It's just going to be a fun thing to watch as we kind of get into that. And we'll talk more about that as we get into the playoffs and where they stand for that. Because one of the things too, Quick won again, and he's now at 390 wins. He's the 15th best overall American-born goalie. And it's great. And we learned Van Beesbrook is number 1. So no, Brodeur. It was Brodeur.
Yeah.
So Brodeur is number 1. And so he's on his way, but he's also like 10 wins away from a milestone. So I'd like to see him reach that. And I think we were talking about seeing if he would play and how he would play in the playoffs. So
I gotta say, it's so great to see Shesterkin and Quick kind of firing on all cylinders at the same time. Whoever's in net on any given day, I think Ranger fans can go in and feel very comfortable. I'm going to imagine we'll see. Well, I don't know. That's an interesting question. So with games tomorrow, which is Tuesday, and Thursday, so Jets and Bruins and then Panthers, when do you think we'll see any Quick in the next 3 games, or do you think it's going to be all Shesty?
If Quick doesn't play tomorrow, I don't expect he's going to play.
Yeah.
So if anything, if they want to put him in, it'll be tomorrow. So
especially against a Western Division team, maybe they think he might come in with a little bit more understanding of the West.
And one thing to know before we sign off here, what we've been talking about this. So it appears that Mika is now scoring 5-on-5. He's reaching milestones. Kreider's scoring. He got an empty netter, and what I was really proud of him yesterday, because he took a shot like from the center. And so I'm like, look at him doing stuff. He's moved out and he's doing stuff. I'm loving these shots. They're moving out from the point. Mika's starting to take shots from different areas of the ice, and it's working for him. So I've not been quiet about the fact that they have the same play. And if it's not working after 2 minutes, you shouldn't do it. So they finally started changing it up, and that's what I'm saying. That's making things work, and I love seeing that. And your man Miller is just.
I knew that.
I think he got a star of the game yesterday.
I mean, okay, I will admit, Keandre Miller is playing so well. He playing.
Even smiled, so
hockey. He's playing his best hockey ever. He's serious. He's focused. I mean, every now and then there's a brain fart. Don't get me wrong, but. On the whole, he's really turned things around. I don't know if, this is a coaching thing. I think the guys had, they struggled a little bit, as they're going to do, but this team has pulled through and is coming together in incredible ways. I would love to see them sort of fight for Lindgren over the next couple of games. Rempe should be back in the lineup. I think they called up Ruedel, who is the trade from Pittsburgh that we've recently got, so we'll get to see him. Roslovic has been playing really well. I think Wenberg looks good. So the new guys on the team look like they're meshing very well and very quickly. It's everything as a fan would want to see. And we don't want to get ahead of ourselves.
Yeah. The comments now are praising Jury, and they thought the trades are a little underrated. But they're working. And here I'm going to go back and say he was not shy. Like Jury himself was not shy about saying he's not trading that first round draft pick. We still have it for the upcoming draft. And
speaking, and not sorry to interrupt, but speaking of first round draft picks, Laffy is doing amazing stuff on the ice. He's really played well. Kakko's been playing great. I mean, everyone, this is what we would dream about. I remember like last season, in the middle of the season, when they lost like 10 games in a row, and like these are the days that we would dream about, and it's happening right now. So, hey, Rangers fans, let's take a minute and be very grateful for a second, because we're seeing the best of the best. We're seeing
and now maybe that's what it took to get them season 2. This was a discussion we had last year where Kakko was number 2 to Jack Hughes. They were both together in the draft run, and so he was 18 and young, and people were crying about when are they supposed to get better? When are they supposed to be good, like the way we want them to? And it's give them time. They're still young, and learning. But when you start to see it click, and you want to see it click together as a team with your team, and have that cohesiveness, we're not trading out any players. And I always kind of had a feeling about that too. And open thoughts, when you keep trading off your line to other people, and then they have to kind of regroup, it throws everybody back. So this has been a really good year with not getting rid of any of our team favorites or these players that have been working up. And they've not been shy about saying that either. So that means it's that long-term investment with this team, and that gives them the confidence to just learn and go and play and do. And I think that's what we're seeing. So part of it is this, the amazing work that Laviolette's done this year. I think every coach we've had has stepped them up to where they need to be now and given them everything that they could do. So even though we didn't like, or, there's things we didn't like about Quinn or Gallant, they stepped them up in that way to be able to deal appropriate with the coach we have now, and have all the same team members be there this whole time to learn through that. It's such a good feeling, and you're starting to kind of see that through the boards, and I like seeing that. So we're gonna, we're still gonna go through the minute anyone scores a goal on us, we're still gonna be failures and trade everybody.
Yeah, don't give Rangers fans that.
It's gonna be a good week. I don't know if we're gonna win the weekend games. I just think it's gonna be really close. So that's my thought on it. So yeah. I think tomorrow's gonna be a fun game. I think the other ones are gonna be just tight, and maybe my concern with that is that I don't want any more injuries, and I just feel these teams that we play are so dirty. And also real quick, we also had to bring in, when we played the Devils, and that comment came back where they were like, with against Rempe, where there was basically a threat saying, hey, if he wasn't going to step up, we could go after some other players instead of him. And that's a concern, because it came out that I can't shake, and I'm kind of watching for. So that's where my focus is going to be when I'm watching these games. If we can get through the next week, we have 3 games, we don't have 5, and playing these top 2 teams, which everyone's going to have eyes on, and we come out, I say if we come out winning at least one of those games, if not both, it'll be great, and uninjured. We don't need injured.
Yeah, exactly. This is the wrap everyone in bubble wrap.
Mika's got it bad. God. Rempe hopefully doesn't have his black eyes. Let's come back and let's do good, boys.
All right. Well, on that note, thanks everyone for listening. Watch this space. We will keep you posted on everything New York Rangers. We are Double Defense. Thank you so much for listening.
Have a great week, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.